Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. All right. I want to go into a lesson, entitled The Company You Keep. The company you keep. And it's inspired by the book of Proverbs, chapter 27. And this is in the Living Bible paraphrase. Okay. So this is Proverbs 27 and 19. When I read this, it kind of hit, to some points in the spirit. So you read Proverbs 27 and 19, it says, a mirror reflects a man's face, but what he is really like is shown by the kind of friends, all right, he chooses. Okay, read that again. A mirror reflects a man's face, but what he is really like is shown by the kind of friends he chooses, the company you keep. Okay, because it's a mirror shows a man's face. All right, and it's easy to put off the image or the facade, of particular characters. This society has mastered, people being a character. Okay, and that's why you have to really judge people based off their decision making. You know, men, women, they can act a particular way, they can put on a facade. All right, but your decision making, because you choose the friends that you're around. To really understand someone, sit back and examine their decision making. you know, really look at their decision making, look at their patterns. All right, when you're questioning someone, you want to get to know someone, investigate their patterns and their decision making. Okay, and that paints a picture, okay, of what that person is. All right, so the mirror, which shows an image, which the image can be easily portrayed. Okay, well, who you are goes back to decision making, man. Your reasoning, because your decision making, it shows our reasoning. Okay, that's why when it comes to the time, with Jacob's trouble, our decision making, our reasoning is going to show if we really believe the whole time or not. Because you're not going to want to fake it. See, right now it's cute to be an Israelite. Facebook, the community barbecues, these different things. But when it comes time to these hard decisions in the clutch, that's going to show what's really in us. Okay, the mirror shows the outward, but decision making shows what's in us, man. Okay, Daniel had to make a decision to pray against all odds. Okay, when it was under the threat of imminent death. All right, Hananiah, all right, Mishael, Azariah. Okay, they made a decision not to bow to the image with the threat of the furnace. They had to make that decision. That showed what they was really about. Okay, you see, you can look at Joseph. When it was time to show integrity and not deal with Pharaoh's wife. Okay, well, they showed who he was inwardly. You see, and the Lord's going to see what we are inwardly, man. Okay, not on the surface. Okay, so decisions, all right, like the friends you keep. Okay, that shows what you really are. Okay, matter of fact, let's go here. I'll read this again. I thought this was heavy. Proverbs 27 and 19. It says, a mirror reflects a man's face, but what he is really like is shown by the kind of friends he chooses. Now, when you go here, okay, I want to get this in the Sirach chapter. All right, Sirach chapter 13 and start at 15. It says, every beast loving his like, and every man loving his neighbor. All flesh consorteth according to kind, and a man will cleave to his like. Okay? All flesh consorted to his kind, and a man will cleave to his like. Okay? So if you're comfortable around niggas, that's because you're a nigga. You know? If you're comfortable around, ratchet behavior, you're comfortable around, moles. All right, I think he has a car. You got the guy, this other guy, Sakari, calling him out for spending the night with a mo. If you spend the night with a man that you know is a mo, okay, yeah, come on, man. Okay, just using that as an example. All right, if you're comfortable enough to spend the night with a man that you know is like that. Come on, man. Okay, so whatever you're comfortable with, that's what you are. Okay, and that's why when we get around now, as we mature in the spirit, as we constantly grow in this thing, man, we get very uncomfortable in certain scenarios. You know, and that's why because we in this world, so we got to deal with the world to a degree. You network, business, or work, or circumstance. You got to deal with people and situations. You can find yourself in awkward situation. You kind of feel that it's off because our spirits don't sit well with the majority of the spirits in the earth. You know, our spirits don't sit right with it because we're not like them anymore. Okay, we're becoming new creatures, man. So we, can't just rest and chill and be comfortable. Okay, in certain places that I used to, kick it at, you know, and be in my element. Now I'm not comfortable there anymore, man. Okay, certain people, certain that I used to, kick it with. I'm not comfortable there anymore, man. But guess what? I'm comfortable around the brothers. I'm comfortable doing this work. Comfortable reading these scriptures. This is my new element now. Everyone cleave it to his like. So prophets, he cleaved the prophets, man. You see? So going back to it, it says, all flesh consorted according to kind, and a man will cleave to his like. What fellowship have the wolf with the lamb? So the sinner with the godly. What agreement is there between the hyena and a dog? And what peace between the rich and the poor? Okay, so there we have no agreement with with the majority of this society. That's why we don't voluntarily put ourselves around these people because for what? Okay, and so you might step out and go to a restaurant or a bar. Okay, well, then it's like it's only so long that you can be in that atmosphere. It's only so long that we can be in certain atmospheres, man. That's why work is so vexing because you have to be in this atmosphere for a prolonged time, which the Lord does that, to keep us, on edge, to keep us to hasten the day. Well, that's why, work becomes so vexing, just to drive to the work so vexing because you got to throw yourself amongst these contrary spirits, man. People that you have nothing that, you really wouldn't have nothing to do with if you didn't have to be here, and it's a vexation, you see? And then it's part of, the chastening of the Lord, all right? And it also makes us appreciate the body more, the refreshment, the refreshing you get from being around, the brothers, man. Okay? So this is Sirach 27 and 14. And it's not Sirach 27 and 12. It says, if thou be among the indiscreet, okay, observe the time. And the indiscreet is the people of this world because they're not governed by the fear of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shah. So their decision making is going to be flawed. It's going to have flaw in it because it's based off the wisdom of this world. Okay, even someone that's put together, according to this world. All right, if they don't have the fear of the Lord, there's going to be a point to where they're going to go left. Okay, they're going to be. It's going to be contrary to how we move, man. And that's why we to the point now, man, that as the scriptures say, we're not even in the midst of these people like that, man. The Lord is constantly separating the church from everyone else, because everyone else is marching towards the destruction, the wrath of the Lord. We're marching towards the Lord's mercy. Our baratas are, man. So we on two different paths, and like I say, we in the world, so sometimes paths cross, through circumstance, or through, certain obligations we got. But other than that, man, you see, the Lord is separating us more and more from these people, man. Okay? So you keep reading on. Sirach 27:12. It said, if thou be among the indiscreet, observe the time, but be continually among the men of understanding. But be continually among the men of understanding. And that's because what? You become what you hang around. Whether, because even if you're not physically around particular things, you can listen to certain music. It's like you're hanging with them niggas, man. If you listen to trap music all day, it's like you hanging with them niggas, man. Okay? If you watch BS on the internet, it's like you hanging around it. Okay? You're making yourself a companion with that. Okay? So we have to be mindful even of what we, watch and what we're listening to, because that can have an effect on our psyche, man. Okay? To where those ideas, because they're rapping ideas, they're constantly justifying wickedness in it. That's why you being around niggas, you have to hear, them wicked conversations. That's why verse 13 say the discourse of a fool is irksome, and their sport is the wantonness of sin, man. Like even, nigga conversations, man, just to hear what niggas talking about out loud, man. The nigga woman, just her voice in general, man. It's like, god damn, it's irksome. So why would the hell would you go to a club full of niggas and the nigga women? When you go to a cookout with niggas and the nigga women? These feasts and these, these little concerts or whatever they got, or trail rides or whatever. Like, why would you go there, okay, where if you can't stand the voice of one nigga woman, okay, or them dumbass conversations niggas be having, okay? You see? If you can't stand one of it, why the hell would we go around hundreds and thousands of it, man? Okay, well, someone bound to die. Okay, nah, man. Like I say, people can put off an image, all right, but who we really are goes into our decision making. So if you're, you know, um, around niggas mostly, then that's what you're comfortable with. If you're around, this crowd and that crowd, and, you're cool with this and that, and, it don't bother you, all right, then that's what you're comfortable with, man. We're versatile. We know how to maneuver in the situation in the moment. Okay, we can deal. Okay, well, this is, where most of your time is spent. It doesn't have to be, I'm saying, actual person, man. Music, what you on the internet, what you into, what you giving your time to. Okay, those things become companions. You know, so hey, hey, the company we keep, shows a lot of who we are, man. So hey, we got to look around sometimes make sure we on point. You know, so Lord will, you brothers and you sisters edify till the next time I say shalom.